Hey there, world. Welcome back to Knowing Nothing, the show made by the curious for the curious. I'm your host, Mickey Roberts. I hope all is well with you guys. I can certainly say it's all well on my end. Had an awesome Thanksgiving break. Now I'm back in Brooklyn, working like a dog. But amidst it all, I managed to make another episode this week, and it's actually one of my favorites, I think. Because today, we're going to be learning about a neurological condition which has absolutely blown my mind since I learned about it years and years ago. I actually first heard about it from the TV show House with Hugh Laurie. Great show. I highly recommend it. But it's not a disorder or a brain malfunction we're going to talk about, or anything like that. It's a trait that you're born with, like having blue eyes. And in a lot of respects, it's more like a superpower. An extra perceptual tool that oftentimes aids in enhancing memory in the people who have it, and in the whole way that we perceive the world. Today, I want to explore something called synesthesia. Synesthesia is a perceptual phenomenon experienced by only around 4% of the population. One currently supported theory is that synesthesia is a hereditary trait caused by a single dominant gene in your DNA, basically meaning that you only need one of your parents to pass the gene on to you for you to potentially have synesthesia. Now, that might sound scary if you don't know what synesthesia is, but I promise it's not scary at all. When broken down to its roots, synesthesia means joined sensation, sort of the opposite of anesthesia, meaning no sensation. Essentially, synesthesia is a neurological cross-wiring of your senses, where stimulation from one of your senses, so sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, is involuntarily coupled with another one of your senses. Weird, right? Here's an example. So let's say your sense of hearing is stimulated by a guy playing guitar on the street. Someone with a certain kind of synesthesia might hear the sound of the guitar, and along with that auditory stimulation, their sense of taste might also be stimulated by the guitar playing. And suddenly that person is tasting the music that they hear. It's crazy, right? I still have difficulty wrapping my head around it. And this isn't the only way it can manifest. It can feasibly be any combination of senses. You might see sounds or hear colors, smell words. And we don't really know why this cross-wiring happens, but since all the senses are so closely intertwined already, some scientists think that it's just a hyperconnectivity of neurons. As it stands today, there are somewhere between 50 and 150 different varieties of synesthesia. We don't even know about most of them, how they manifest, but there are a few super cool, well-documented types that I kind of want to tell you about. The first is something called mirror touch synesthesia, and this is a coupling of the sense of sight and the sense of touch. When someone who has this kind of synesthesia sees you being touched on your left shoulder, for example, they feel a physical touch on their left shoulder. But it's even more intense than just that. There's a woman by the name of Carolyn Hart whose account of mirror touch synesthesia was documented by an awesome YouTube channel that I love called Great Big Story. And I'll add the link to her video in my blog. And Carolyn talks about when she sees someone with a broken arm, she actually experiences pain in her arm. Or when she watches ballet, she feels the firing of her muscles and the spinning sensation as a dancer does a pirouette. She even says that she can't watch Game of Thrones because she physically feels the violence in that show. One of the most common forms of synesthesia is called grapheme color synesthesia, and this is when people who have it will see numbers or letters in various colors. Each number is typically assigned a color, and that color never changes. So the number 5 would be light blue, or the word hammock would be orangey rust color. A lot of people who have this find themselves having far superior memory skills because they just have all these extra hooks to tie things like names into. So if you were trying to remember my name, for example, and you had grapheme color synesthesia, you might think, what's his name? Well, he had a green name, so, well, the letter M is green. Maybe Miles? No, Mickey. Mickey's his name. And people with this form of synesthesia also tend to excel at math. And like I said, there isn't a lot known about synesthesia. And although many researchers think it's hereditary, there are others who think it might be developmental. They think these connected senses might get that way when we're kids, with rapidly developing brains just starting to comprehend abstract concepts like numbers. And it becomes this open pathway from one area of the brain to another. And another theory is that some people are just born with abnormally high neuronal connections, which predisposes them to synesthesia. And there are a whole bunch of ideas why this phenomenon might occur, but we don't really know what's going on, which I think just makes it all the cooler. But no matter how much research I've been doing on synesthesia, there's this looming truth just hanging over my head that I need to acknowledge. I can research it until the cows come home, but if I don't have it, then I'll never really understand it. And if I can never really understand it, then what good am I trying to teach you about it? That's why I decided it might be better to hear about synesthesia from two people who actually have it. Yep, I interviewed two separate guests, both of whom have separate kinds of synesthesia. And I asked them to tell you what I simply can't. What it's really like to be a synesthete. So without further ado, please welcome my first guest, dancer, actor, and all-around performer, and wonderful human being, Fernando Moya Delgado.
There you go.
There is Fernando. I'm going to go back to Fernando, though, for the duration
of course,
it, if
please,
it's okay.
Please, go to Fernando.
I don't want to insult anyone who doesn't like the roles of my R's. Where are you from?
I'm from Ecuador. I'm from Guayaquil, Ecuador, born and raised. I moved here when I was 19, and I recently got my artist visa. So,
hell yeah. Congratulations.
And I'm working here with a couple of dance and theater and multimedia immersive companies.
That's really cool. All right, so Fernando, let's get to what we're obviously here for.
Let's do this.
So I want to know, before anything, can you tell me, because obviously synesthesia is different for anyone who has it, exactly how does it manifest for you?
Great. So the way it manifests to me is emotions provide me colors that manifest sometimes physically in my body. Like I feel them in my body in a specific places sometimes. And also like music or sounds sometimes provide me the sensation of colors, which is different. It's not necessarily that like I feel it in some place, but I feel color.
Wow.
It's
the sound of the color, or in the music, or you so you're saying you feel a color, you don't see it.
I don't see it. I'm not necessarily
not
like
visual.
in the air like, oh, I can see yellow here, but I can feel yellow and can feel blue. I know, it's actually
my brain.
Please know that like I know we're gonna talk about this more right now, but I didn't know it was as, I don't want to say weird, but that it wasn't a
just
thing.
uncommon.
That was just how I've been feeling.
So you've met Fernando, and we're going to come back to him in just a second, but I want you to meet another synesthete now so you can really see just how uniquely synesthesia can be in two different people. So now we're going to meet singer, songwriter, and all-around musical genius, member of a band called Sad, and synesthete, Marlon Marcy. Marlon, hello.
Yo, howdy.
Thank you for coming on to the show tonight. So first and foremost, can you just explain to me, what is your experience with synesthesia? How does it manifest for you?
Abysmally. No, so there's two types. There's associative and projective or projectionist, or I don't know how you want to classify that. But associative would be you smell something and in your mind you associate that with a letter, something like that. Projective would be you see a letter in space. Mine is associative for color with sound, for specific pitches. So G sharp is orange, things like that.
Is it specific to all kind of sound, or is it specifically to music, notes, or certain instruments, or is it voice as well? Like if I speak at a certain pitch.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a combination of color and texture. So certain sounds are grainy, or it's talking about it, it's very abstract, so it's hard to, trying to explain color to a blind person, kind of like in that vein.
All right, so now you've met both Fernando and Marlon, and you can see how even though they both have synesthesia, it affects them in two completely different ways. So now I'm going to hop back to Fernando, and we're going to learn a little bit more about how he experiences synesthesia in his life. And then from there, I'm just going to hop back and forth between the two of them. Here we go. All right. So, Fernando.
When was the first time you realized that you had this condition that other people don't have?
So when I let's say when I categorized it, when I like intellectually was like, oh, I have synesthesia, was last year, was a year ago, last summer.
Oh, wow.
Because before that, I've been experiencing it like since I was a kid, and then I was choreographing a musical, and I was talking to my friends, trying to just like create gestural like movement from sentences, and I was like, what is this feeling like let's say I was with you, I was like, Mickey, what is the color of this feeling for you? How does it manifest? So from there I could create. And my friends were like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, like, what's the color of that feeling? What's the color of that sensation? And then that led to another conversation with my friend Adrian that became kind of like, wait, do you know synesthesia? Do you know that's a thing? And we Googled it, we like researched it, and it's the first time that I understood what I was going through. I was just like, oh, you feel different. Like, it's okay. Like, I feel different too. We all feel different. But it was last year in that moment when I was like, oh, wait, I have synesthesia. And I kind of felt like, this is cheesy, but I kind of felt like at home. I was like, whoa, this is a thing.
When did you first realize that you had this neurological condition and other people didn't?
Ooh. Well, it's funny, 'cause I didn't really listen to music. I'm not like until I was like 14, I didn't listen to any music. I played upright bass in second grade. It's like twice the size I was. And then I played electric bass. I was taking bass lessons. And the guy said, bring in some music you like. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know what that means. I was so embarrassed. But then I heard Radiohead for the first time. And it just blew my mind, blew my hair back. And
Radiohead will do that to you.
Yeah, for sure. But that's just kind of my awakening for finding joy in music, even though they're kind of depressing, if you think. I don't personally think, but yeah, I mean, I played for a long time. The kind of advantage of it is it gave me almost perfect pitch, so anything I could hear, I could pretty much play right away. But the disadvantage is that it kind of makes music very mechanical and not subjective. Like Radiohead's this explosion of color and texture, but then I'll hear other things and I don't get anything from it, so it's not.
So it almost serves as like a disadvantage for enjoying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Music. Wow, that's interesting.
And I don't know, even beyond that, like tangential, I guess. Like, I just wanted to perform or be in the arts or showbiz in some way, so that would be acting or whatever, what have you, writing or whatever. Music's just the one I kind of had a hack at. So that, like, I have no special attachment to it. I just happen to be decent for unfair reasons. So yeah, I mean, I guess I realized when I was about 18, just playing with some guys, and I can see when people make mistakes.
Oh wow.
So yeah, that's kind of when people were like, "What the hell is wrong with it?" Like,
whoa.
So
that's so what you would like. You would just immediately say like that was wrong note, or
yeah. And I've played gigs in the past with people who are not as, I don't know, they just don't practice enough, I guess. But they'll make a series of mistakes throughout the show, and I can basically like read a list of mistakes from the show and make like
from memory.
Yeah.
What is the most memorable experience that comes to mind with synesthesia?
I love that question. This is not, I'm not saying this was the best one, but it's the one that I recall now, like all the time when I think or speak about synesthesia. It happened that summer, which is how like this conversation also started happening. This happened, whatever. I was hooking up with this wonderful human, with this girl. We were just kissing, and we've had some drinks. We were not drunk, but we're like having a beautiful conversation, talking to each other. And she like goes ahead, like I have my eyes closed, and like she like touches my face. And when she touches my face, I feel like a English help, a strike of blue on my left cheek up here, and then on my right cheek down, I felt like on my jaw, like some gray with a little yellow. And she just like grabbed my face, and it was beautiful. It was intense. It was magical. Magical is really cheesy, but it was really like, it was such a beautiful sensation. I was also very into this human. So for her to like touch me and for me to like feel these colors in my face and then just open my eyes and see her was such an experience that like I'm very thankful that I had.
Oh my God. You're making me emotional.
it was a lot, dude. It was a lot. And like, that's why like sometimes I'm careful about talking to synesthesia because it can go to dreamland real fast.
Yeah.
It can go to like cheesy and magic, but like it's also real. Like it happened. I felt the colors and then I was lucky or blessed enough to like open my eyes and be with this beautiful human that provided the stimuli for that colors to happen to my body. In that scenario, they were specific in my body. Like they were in my face. Like I remember distinctly. Wait, I want to share something with you real fast. Like as a kid, I was trying art and I was trying photography, and I did this photo shoot with like my friends from high school, in which I like thinking of when you're brainstorming and you're having ideas, that always in my brain is like a rain of colors. That has always been like that. Like when I'm like thinking of creating a piece of theater or a piece of dance, it's a rain of colors that is coming through my brain, through my soul. So I took a picture of my friend. Oh my God, my mom would have probably hated me with like a bunch of like painting falling on her. And that's that's just how my brain perceived it.
Wow. And it's always been the same like that. Like that's how you think, kind of. Do you feel like as you get, inspiration for a new idea or a new concept, the way that you visualize it in your head is through this like sort of colorful.
I must say, if I'm thinking it, that's very intellectual. That's it,
Okay, so I think is the wrong word.
Yeah, I mean it's because all of us can think of colors or can think of another sensation for that matter, of a smell or
Yeah.
But this isn't. It's very not intellectual. It's not something that I can fully control. So like that's why like yes, it has shaped me as a human just to be more aware of it. So when it happens, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling this right now.
Wow. So it's almost like an appreciation you can have for it now instead of just being part of something you do.
Yeah, I actually appreciate it more now, to be honest.
That's so cool. So what would you say if you have one, or if it's something that has ever even crossed your mind, is a memorable experience in particular that you had relating to this condition that you have?
I don't know if there is one. I mean, I could ask you the same thing. Is there one where your normal hearing has given you a special, you know what I mean?
There's like, definitely ones where they're my bad hearing.
Well, for sure. I mean, I could, for sure. I mean, it's just moments like when I was younger, I was signed to a big label, and they hooked me up with a bunch of pros, and we'd play shows. And I'm just moments like that where like everyone is really professional, knows what they're doing. It's just like, beautiful little entanglement of wonderful colors and textures, and
wow.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
So ultimately music is just like you're experiencing it with more senses, so you just kind of get to appreciate it.
It's
more.
just
like
another tool. I wouldn't even say appreciate it because
wow.
again, it